What's up, my mathletes? That's right, Mr. Muscarella coming at you. And in this video, we're going to take a look at graphing a logarithmic function of base 2. So go ahead and grab your pens and papers, and let's get ready to go. So here, in our example, we're trying to find the graph of this. So we're trying to graph this, but also describe some things about this. The domain, the range, end behavior, x-intercepts, asymptotes. I'm even going to throw in the y-intercept. So if that's not on your note sheet, go ahead and add x. I'll show you how to do that in here as well. Now, a couple things about our function. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. You want to make sure that you can identify a couple of things. Now, the first thing we want to do is take a look at this value. Oops, 2, right? That's going to be our base. So the base, that has a value of 2. Now, this x plus 8, this piece right here, that's called your argument. And the argument is going to be really helpful in a couple of things. One is going to be the shifting of the graph left or right. So that's a horizontal shift. So the argument is also going to tell us about the horizontal shift. And then the second thing the argument will tell us about, in addition to the horizontal shift, is going to be where the vertical asymptote is. And I'll just abbreviate that VA. So the vertical asymptote and the horizontal shift, all that information comes from the argument. Now the other type of shift that we have in here is this last piece, and that little bugger right there, that -4, that's going to be a vertical shift. So that's going to move the graph up or down. And when I say move it up or down, that's going to shift the y values. They're going to move the y values from the parent function, which you're all familiar with from other coursework that you may have done here. So we'll play along with all those things. And let's get first into the piece that is going to be the asymptote. So I want you to write this down, asymptote. And here's how we find the asymptote. You're going to take the argument, which in this case is x plus 8, and you're going to set that equal to 0. And then you're going to solve that, and you're going to get x equals, if you subtract 8 on both sides, you'll get -8. No problem. So now we're going to go ahead, and we're going to graph that line. So when you go to graph that, there's going to be one thing. I know what I want my guys to do, my students, is go over to -8, and you just put a dashed line going down the graph. And if you have to fill that out anywhere, so you can say, okay, the asymptote is going to be x equals -8. All right, so that's no big deal there. Now the next thing we're going to find is going to be the x-intercept. So the asymptote is just the equation x equals -8. Now the x-intercept is going to be the next piece we'll find. Now the x-intercept, as we get moving, think about the x-intercept, what that is. That is going to be where the y value is always going to be 0. So what we're going to do is take the equation we have, log base 2 of x plus 8 minus 4, and we're going to set that equal to 0, and then solve that little bugger. So take your time as you do this. We're going to first move the -4 over, and as we do that, so we're going to add 4 to both sides, and that gives us 4 on the right side. Then we're going to use our properties here that we should be familiar with. So we're going to take 2, that's our base, and we're going to raise it to the 4th power. So that's going to look like this. We're going to have x plus 8 is going to be 2 to the 4th power. Now 2 to the 4th power just means you're going to take 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2, 4, 8, 16. So you're going to have x plus 8 equal to 16. Now we subtract 8 on both sides, and we're going to get just 8. So that means my x-intercept has a coordinate 8, 0. So I'm going to go over to my graph, and we're going to plot that on the graph, 8, 0. So 8, 0, boom, right there. Thank you for showing up. And then we're also going to write that down if we have to record that information. So 8, 0. Now the next piece we're going to find is going to be the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is going to have the x-coordinate is going to be 0. So for the y-intercept, now the x value for every y-intercept is going to be 0. So you're going to put in 0 for the x, plus 8, and then -4. And then we're going to evaluate this. So 0 plus 8, of course, is 8. So we're going to have log base 2 of 8 minus 4. Now here's where things can get really tricky. So take a look at this number 8, and we're going to find another way to represent 8 using 2 as the base. So 8 is the same thing as 2 to the 3rd power, because 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8. So 2 to the 3rd power minus 4. Now, when you have the base of log base 2 and the base is 2, so these two guys right there, they're going to cancel out, and the log is going to be gone. So what we're going to have next is just plain old 3. The exponent is going to drop down. So 3 minus 4, and you end up with a value of -1. So that means my y-intercept is going to be the coordinates 0, -1. So we're going to go to the graph, and we're going to put a dot at 0, -1. So boom, there you go. There's that spot right there. So those are the first 2 points that I can come up with on this graph and the asymptote. So you get those 3 things right off the bat, and then you are ready to roll. Now, coming up with the points. So here's the general formula for the parent function. And this, your teacher should go over this with you and everything. So generally speaking, you want to take a look at the base. And the first point that you're going to have is always going to be 1 over your base. That's going to be the x-coordinate. And then the y-coordinate that is going to go along with that is going to be -1. The next point that is going to be on your graph in general is going to be the point 1, 0. And then our third and final point is going to be the base number. So that's going to be the x-coordinate, and then +1. So those are going to be the standard points that are on there. So I want you to write that down because that is important. So those are going to be the points. Now we've got some shifting that's going on here with that +8 and the -4. That horizontal and vertical shift is going to change these values. So there's going to be a lot of movement, so to speak, here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this to start with. So our base was 2, so we're going to have 1/2 -1. And then 1, 0, that doesn't change. And then our base was 2, so we're going to have 2, 1. So these are going to be the points to start out with. Now, we've got 2 things going on here. We had a horizontal shift, so I'm going to just abbreviate that, HS, so horizontal shift, because we moved our asymptote 8 units. Our vertical asymptote went to the left 8, so our horizontal asymptote is going to be left 8 is going to end up shifting that. So all those x values, we're going to subtract 8 from. Now, when we do that, so there's going to be a little bit of math here. So 1/2 -8. So let me kind of go over here on the side. So 1/2 -8. Oh, that's just gross. So I'm going to take the 2 and multiply it by the 8, so I can get a little bit something different here. So 1/2 -8 is going to be the same thing as 1/2 minus and then 16 over 2, because that's a real fancy form of 8. 1/2 minus 16 is going to give us -15 over 2. All right, that's still gross. So my first x-coordinate is going to be -15 over 2. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the next x-coordinate, which is 1. I'm going to subtract 8, and I'm going to take the third x-coordinate, 2, and I'm going to also subtract 8, because I've got that horizontal shift to the left 8 units. So 1 minus 8, no big deal. That part's -7. So I'm going to have -7. And then 2 minus 8 gives me -6. So -6. So these are going to be the x-coordinates for my point. Now, the y-coordinates. Now, we had a vertical shift of -4. So let's go ahead and write that. So this is a vertical shift of -4. So that means we're going to go down 4. So we got to take each one of my y-coordinates and move down 4. So you're going to subtract 4. If your vertical shift was +4, then you would move up 4 and you would add 4. So we're going to take those values, -1, 0, and 1, and we're going to add 4 to each one of those. So again, let me just do a little bit of arithmetic here so I make sure that I'm good. So -1, and then if I go down 4, that's -4. That's going to give me -5. So -15 halves minus 5. That's 1 point. It's gross, but that's what we got. And then the other point is 0 minus 4, and then 1 minus 4. So these are all the y values, and when I come up with those, 0 minus 4 is -4, and 1 minus 4 gives me -3. So those aren't too bad. -5, -4, -3. So these are going to be the 3 points that I'm going to plot on my curve. Now, let's start from the bottom, -6, -3. So -6, and then down to -3. So that is going to be pretty nice right here. And then we'll have -7, -4 right there. Now notice the shape this is taking. And then -15 halves and -5. So somewhere, I don't know, somewhere around there, but something before the asymptote. So you're good on that. And then we just connect all the dots. in as decent a curve as we can try to draw with that. So boom and boom. So that's generally what our function would look like. So coming up with that table of values is going to be one of the more challenging parts for this piece. So these are going to be the points on my graph. Negative 15 halves, negative 5, negative 7, negative 4. Oops, don't forget that parentheses. And then negative 6, negative 3. And again, look for patterns as you go through and do this. Now let's talk about these couple other pieces here that we've got to fill out for our function. Ooh, we forgot to write in 0, negative 1. So 0, negative 1, that was my y-intercept. Now the domain and the range. Now the domain is always going to be tied into whatever your asymptote is. Now notice our function starts at the asymptote and goes to the right. So I'm going to start here at negative 8, and I'm going to go to the right. So that's going to give me negative 8 to infinity, because I go to the right forever and ever and ever. And the range goes down forever and then slowly curves up. So I'm going to start all the way at negative infinity and keep going gradually up and up and up to infinity. So that's the domain and range. Now as we look at the end behavior, we just got to take a look at the left side and the right side of our arrows. Where are they going? Now, if I look at the right side, out past our x-intercept of 8, and I look, what direction is that going? Oh, yes, that's going up. So as you're going up, that's going to deal with that very first piece. F of x goes to infinity. So this piece right here, in case you forget, this piece means which part of the graph is going up. And the part that goes up is the right side, and the right side is after 10, that's going to be infinity. And then the other piece, this part means down. F of x approaches negative infinity, means I want to look at the part of the graph that goes down. And if I look at that, I get really close to where my asymptote was at negative 8, and that's where it starts to go down. So you're going to write in your asymptote number again, but this is where things are going to get a little bit different. You're going to write negative 8, because x is going to approach negative 8, but it's coming in hot from the right side. So as you come in from the right, you're going to denote that with this very special exponent as a plus sign. So you're coming in from the right side of 8, so you're going to write that as x approaches negative 8 from the right is going to look like negative 8 with an exponent that's plus sign. So that is how you get after this kind of problem. I know it's a lot, so make sure you go back, rewatch the video, pause it if you need to, because there's a lot of stuff contained in here. So that is it for this video. So take your time with the arithmetic and moving and shifting, and I'm going to show you another video on how to use Desmos to check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right, so be sure to come on back and watch that one, and I'll catch up with you later. Make it a great day, and I'll catch up with you soon. Peace out, Cub Scout.